Hello and welcome back to Cinnamon Sanctuary. If you are new to my channel, a very warm welcome to you. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I promise you will enjoy the content that I have to offer. So today we are going to be making coconut fried rice with some shrimp as well as some chicken to go with it, and it's going to be delicious. So without further ado, let's get cooking. In my pot, we have a kilo of chicken legs and chicken thighs, which I'm about to season. So the idea is to boil this chicken over so that we can collect some lovely stock for the rice. So for the seasoning, I'm using some all-purpose seasoning, some chicken seasoning, everyday seasoning, some dried parsley, as well as some black pepper. But it's entirely up to you what you like to use for your seasoning. I mean, everyone has their preference. This is just what I like to use. So I'm just spreading this all over the chicken, and as usual, I'm going with my usual ginger, garlic and aniseed mix, which I've just blended together with a bit of water, and as well as an onion which has been cut in half and sliced. So this is the bulk of my seasoning, and I just added in a little bit of water just to aid the cooking time, and I'm going to let this boil over for approximately 20 to 25 minutes, half covered. It's been 5 minutes now, so I just went back in to stir the chicken and make sure that the spices and seasoning are nicely combined into the chicken. And I could have done this at the very beginning, but I like to wait a few minutes for everything to warm up before stirring it up, because I think it's just a little bit easier for them to be combined. So I'm just covering this back up, and it has been 25 minutes at this point, and the chicken is nice and tender. So now we're just going to remove it and reserve for later. As you can see, we have been left with this lovely stock, which is going to form the basis of our rice, which we are about to boil in about a second. So in the sink, we have about 4 to 5 cups of basmati rice. If you prefer, you can use long grain rice, that works well as well. So I'm just going ahead and washing it. And the way I go about this, as you can see, the water is quite cloudy at the moment, so you have to wash this a few times. In my case, about 5, 6, sometimes 7 times, until the water returns nice and clear, and you want to ensure that the starch is removed from the rice. So this is your principle when it comes to washing rice. You want to get rid of the excess starch. If you don't do this, you'll end up with very sticky and clammy rice, which nobody really wants. So I finished washing my rice, and then I set it aside. So here you can see it's nice and clean. In a separate pot, I mean, you can use the same pot that you use to make your chicken. I just find it easier to cook rice in this pot here. So I poured the stock in that pot, as well as some coconut milk, and this is the coconut milk that I like to use for this. And I'm not using the whole can, I'm using about 3/4 of it, which I've poured into my stock. And then I've also rinsed the pot where I cooked the chicken with a bit more water and added this on to the mix. Now is also a good time to adjust the seasoning if needed. So I just felt that the stock and coconut mix needed a little bit more salt, as well as some black pepper. So go ahead and do this if it's required. It should not need that much because the chicken stock is already very well seasoned. So once that's done, you can now pour your washed rice into the mix. The rice is going to cook on medium heat until all of the water has been absorbed. So this is how I go about cooking rice in general, and I'm not covering it at this point. I'm just letting it uncovered until it looks like this. So it's on medium heat, and I now just went and reduced the heat entirely. At this point, the rice is going to steam. So this is the easiest way to go about doing this. I didn't add any extra water at this point. I will do this at this stage where the rice has cooked further and there's now no more liquid on top. So I just went and fluffed the rice up a bit and to check what it would look like, and I could sense that there were a few grains that were uncooked still, so I just went ahead and added a bit of hot water, so the equivalent of about 2 tablespoons of hot water on top of the rice, and I went back to cover it. It's been about 35 minutes later, and as you can see, the rice is now fully done, so I just went ahead and fluffed it up with a fork to make sure that the grains are nice and separated, and we can now set it aside for later. Getting back to our chicken now, so I'm just adding a bit of oil to a pan, so the equivalent of about 4 tablespoons of oil, and I'm just going to go ahead and fry the chicken up for a bit. So this chicken is already cooked, so the aim here was to give the chicken a bit of color. Alternatively, and for a healthier option, you may also decide to just grill it for a couple of minutes per side. So for me, this is purely for aesthetic purposes. I just wanted to give the chicken a little bit of a nice golden brown color. Now removing the excess oil, because we won't be needing this for the continuation of our preparation, and we are about to start frying the shrimp, which is why I'm getting the pot ready for that purpose. So in my bowl we have about 300 grams of raw tiger shrimps that have been washed and deveined, and I'm just seasoning it with some Old Bay seasoning as well as a bit of black pepper, and I'm about to mix this up. Once the oil is hot, you can now pour your shrimp in, and shrimp doesn't take long to cook, to be honest. It takes about 2 minutes per side, if that, but a telltale sign is if they start to turn pink, then they're about just ready to be removed. So I'm just turning them over, so I have to ensure that they are cooked on both sides, and once that's done, you can remove them and set them aside for later. In the same pan, we're going to fry our veg, starting with some onion and garlic. So you're going to have to stir this up and let it become translucent and cook for about a couple of minutes, no longer than this, otherwise the garlic is going to start burning. And once these are nicely cooked, you can go ahead and add some pepper. So I went for an orange bell pepper in this case, and I didn't use the whole pepper. I used half of it, which I diced up in very fine pieces, and just stirring this all up to ensure that it cooks nicely. And I left this in for about 3 minutes before now going in with some frozen vegetables. You can prefer to use fresh vegetables as well if you prefer, that's fine too. I just, for in the interest of time, decided to go in with some frozen vegetables, and these will have to cook for about 5 minutes. They don't need that long to cook before going in with your shrimp. So at this point, you can add the shrimp as well as the coconut rice, which you cooked up earlier. And you can add in as little or as much rice as you'd like. I'm going to put in the exact amount that I used in the description box, so don't worry about this. So once this has been added, you can just nicely stir this all up. So you want to stir fry it for about 5 to 6 minutes. Last optional move, I'm going in with a couple of spring onions which I've diced up, and I'm adding these into the rice about 30 seconds before I'm about to turn the stove off. And I love doing this, especially when it comes to fried rice, because I think it just adds so much extra flavor. It truly is a game changer. I suggest you try this. It transforms the smell of it. So once this is done, your coconut fried rice is good to go. It's nice and fluffy. It's got the shrimp. It's coconutty. It's everything you could wish for where fried rice is concerned and more. It is so delicious, guys. So I strongly urge you to try this and you will not regret this. And it's so quick to make as well, because once you have all of your ingredients ready, you're good to go. So I'm just plating this up and I'm going to try this to see how it turned out. I do hope you enjoyed this. This concludes the end of the fried rice dish. Please leave a comment and a like if you enjoyed this. Don't forget to subscribe, and thank you very much for watching. See you next time. Bye.